Hey there, Chef Jeff here at White Apron Catering in Lake Worth. Today we're going to do some stuff that's kind of fun. One of my favorites that I like to do. We're going to do some risotto. What do you put in your risotto? Put whatever you like in your risotto. I'm putting in what I like to use. So we've got a little onions to start with and a little bit of fennel. Of course, we've got the arborio rice. And the rice, the key on the risotto is using the rice. You'd use the arborio rice. It's a short grain rice, which makes it kind of starchy. And so what you're going to do is as you're stirring it, that's what makes it nice and creamy. Of course, you're going to finish it with a little butter and a little cheese, which is going to help too. I also thought we'd put in some mushrooms. I've got some beautiful little button mushrooms, little asparagus, and why not? Let's put a little lobster meat in there. I've got some knuckle and claw meat that I've got from one of the other things. So we're going to chop up a little onions. I've already got some onions and fennel chopped up, but we'll chop a little bit more up. So we're just going to do a little dice. Do a nice little dice of some of the onions. Remember how we just go across and then back through. There we go. Some of that, and then we've got the fennel. The fennel, we'll just cut the core out. Cut that core out of the center. Yeah. And we'll just do little julienne strips, and from the julienne strips, then we're just going to do our dice on it. Let's stack that back up. And here we got the fennel. I like the flavor of the fennel, so that's why I use it in there. A lot of times I'll use the fennel and put it in just about everything. All right, let's take this and get some of this out of our way. All right, and then I think we're just about ready to start. So we're going to add our fennel to our fennel and add our onions to our onions. And get this cleaned up and ready to go. Now we're ready to go. Got a little wooden spoon. I don't know, I think I just like the wooden spoon to go with that so you're not scratching anything. And I've got a little stock. If you can, the stock warm, stock hot is really the way to go with it. It's going to help the risotto absorb everything in. So we're going to start with a little olive oil. And I'll start with a little olive oil in the pan, and then once that heats up, and you're going to want a decent amount in there, because you're going to saute the onions and the fennel up a little bit, and then once those get a little translucent, we're going to add the rice in and cook that through. So we'll add a little bit of onions. Roughly, I usually figure about 2 to 3 ounces of dry rice per person, if that's what you're looking for. Just going to, because you're going to get about double that, so the 2 ounces is going to net you 6. You're going to do about 4 ounces of liquid. So we'll get that going and let that get started. All right, now as these onions start to get the onions and the fennel, and they're starting to get a little cooked through. You see how they're starting to get a little translucent? So now we're going to add our rice in. Add the rice in, and I let the rice kind of fry up in the oil a little bit. Kind of toast it up a little bit. I think it helps it absorb the flavor of the onions and all of that. So we're going to let that get started there. And you don't have to let that go for too long. Let that go a couple minutes. Like I said, you just want it to sort of fry up and get all the nice flavors. Now, depending on what kind of risotto you're doing, you can toast it up like you would a rice pilaf or whatever. But in this case, I don't think we're going to. We'll just kind of keep it going, move it around a little bit. That's the thing about the risotto too. You're going to want to stir it. That's really the key. You don't have to stir it constantly, but once you start adding the stock in, you're going to keep after it a little bit. It's sort of a labor of love, so to speak. So you're just going to roll with it. All right, and see how it's starting to toast up just a little bit? You can see it. before we let it go any further, now we're going to start adding our liquids in. I like to start with a little white wine, and whatever you've got handy, whatever you didn't finish from before, you know, just keep that in the fridge, and then you've got your wine that you can use. Your wine that you can use for the night. That's what you use for cooking. We'll go ahead and stir that and let that get all nice and absorbed. But it'll quickly absorb itself in. All right. And once that's in, let's start adding our stock. Now, again, the stock, you're going to want it nice and warm, hot almost, even better. And I'm using a nice homemade chicken stock that we did. And we just add a little bit in to start with, and I'm going to turn that down to about medium. You're still going to want it to sort of just simmer, and this lets you absorb the liquid in nice and slow. But it's the stirring action that's going to make it creamy, because then you're going to get the starch coming out of the rice. So we'll just stir that in, let that go a little bit, and maybe after our next addition of the liquid, we're going to add in some of our vegetables. We've got some of the asparagus tips, and I've got some of the mushrooms, those little button mushrooms. We'll add those in. We'll let that go. And the lobster, since it's already cooked, I steamed them off, and we just pick the claws and the legs out. So we got the knuckle and that meat. You can use whatever you like. You know, like crab, throw the crab in. You want chicken, throw the chicken in. It'd be great with that. But again, you see how it's sort of just simmering, and it's absorbing the liquid. That's just what you're looking for. We'll add a little bit more liquid because you want to just keep it moving around. And just keep adding it slow. But then by the stock being hot, it doesn't cool the rice down when you add it to it. And it's just going to keep moving along and getting better and better as it's going. So at this point, maybe we're going to add our mushrooms in. Add a few of those and see where we're at. And maybe a couple more. How about that? And I've just quartered these up. You can slice them, dice them, whatever you like. I just thought it'd be pretty to quarter them. Like I said, give it a little stir, let it sit, come back, give it a little stir, gives you a chance to chat. You just kind of just keep moving with it. And then anytime you see it's getting a little, where it's soaking up all the liquid, just add a little bit more. Stir that in. And let it go and stir it and let it go. You just keep it at a nice simmer, sort of a medium heat. So you're just going to want to let it simmer and kind of bubble up a little bit. All right, now as that's soaking everything up and it's going good, you can see it's starting to get a little thick, which is good. That's exactly what we want. That's the starch from the rice coming out. We're going to add a little bit more and get it going. And we're going to add some of our asparagus. See how much asparagus we want, and then that's how much we add. How many people? And we'll stir that in, and then the asparagus will cook all up while that's going. Give it some nice flavor as well. The mushrooms are just about done. All right, that's coming together. It's looking beautiful. And then the lobster, I'm saving for the end because we really don't want to overcook it. Like I said, it's already steamed off. I steamed it when we cooked the lobsters before I picked it all through. And that's going good. Let's see. And you're getting some nice volume on that from what we started with. We might be getting just about close on this. Let's see where we're at. We're gonna give that a little check to see how close we're getting on the rice. Just about there. You can kind of tell by looking at it too, because you'll see the grains and from where they started with the size and where they're at now, they're starting to swell up, but you still want to check to make sure. Again, it gives you a good excuse to checking it for the seasonings, but also to have a bite before everybody else gets it. That's really the ticket. All right, and this is getting pretty close now. You see how it's coming together? And it's getting nice and creamy from the rice. We're going to add some of our lobster in and see where we're at. We're going to add the lobster in. And I didn't add the lobster till the very end because, like I said, I just didn't want to overcook it. And there we go. Oh, that's looking delicious. Look at that. And then as that comes together, we're going to let most of the liquid there get absorbed. And then we can do the final additions. And now, once we get to this point, we'll go ahead and start adding. Still got a little bit in there, but the rice is going to absorb that. So we're going to start with adding a little bit of butter. And yes, you're going to have to add a little bit of butter to this because you just have to. So we're going to add just a little bit, a couple of little pieces. And again, you're feeding a few people here, so don't worry about it. But you have to. It's just... So let the butter kind of soak in there too. Add its little creamy goodness to it. And then once that butter gets all nice and absorbed, we're going to add a little bit of cheese to it and then pull it off. Check it for a little salt and pepper. I'm sure it's going to need a little bit of both. But I usually wait and do the salt, check for the salt until after after you add the cheese, because the cheese is already salt. Has a good amount of salt in it. Like I said, I usually use a nice Reggiano Parmesan, but whatever kind of cheese you like. But go ahead, and that's one of those ones that's worth. It's worth it. We'll add a little bit of cheese, and this will help. This will help with the consistency too. So just add a little bit. Stir that in. And at this point, we'll go ahead and shut it off because that's about where we want it. And see how, look at that. It's getting nice and creamy, delicious. It's just about time to call everybody for dinner, I think. I think me and Jim are going to enjoy a nice lunch today anyway. Okay, so we got our cheese and our butter. Let's finish it with a little bit of our fresh herbs. We've got some parsley and a little thyme and maybe just a little touch of tarragon. Let's see where we're at. All right, let's give that a little check and see where it needs as far as a little salt and pepper. A little bit of pepper and just a little bit of salt. You'll find that between the cheese and the stock, you're usually going to have a fair amount of salt in there, so you're not going to need much. And from there, we're going to slide this over and then see how it looks. And go ahead and give us a nice little bowl of risotto. Got a little lobster and asparagus and mushroom risotto. There we go. That looks like a perfect little lunch or dinner. bring people over. This and a nice salad, and you are good to go. It's our lobster and asparagus risotto here at White Apron Catering. I'm Chef Jeff. Thanks for watching us. I hope you enjoy this. Go ahead and try it. Let me know what you think. Like us and subscribe. Send us some feedback. Thank you. Enjoy.